really be a time where you genuinely where you forget about yourself, where you forget about your own needs and your own well-being. And the most important thing that I want with this presentation for you, everyone to just take is you are allowed to take care of your mental and emotional well-being even during the holidays. Now, trust me, from someone who gets it, from someone who understands the holiday stressors, one of the most common ones is family members asking personal questions, especially when you visit those family members that you haven't seen in a while. And, unfortunately, they ask you some questions that you may not feel comfortable with. And sometimes, with family members, especially seeing your cousins you haven't seen in a while and stuff like that, you find yourself comparing yourself to others. And of course, you feel that responsibility to make sure everyone's happy. And then, of course, especially when you come back to your hometown, you have the social media pressure. And unfortunately, during this time of year, many people they experience, feeling lonely and, missing someone or missing just having someone there to help you. And as well, on top of all that, all those stressors, you also have too many events going on, family dragging you around everywhere, or even just a lot of people, sometimes, you have family members, all a bunch of family members all in one house, and it can feel very straining and stuff like that. And a question that I want you to ask yourself is what usually stresses you out during the holidays? Now, what are boundaries? Boundaries the simplest way possible, it limits you to it limits you to feel, that you can't feel safe, respected, and peaceful. It's kind of, and sometimes that's how it feels when you don't have boundaries. And once you set those boundaries, especially during the holiday season, it is a way for you to say, I'm okay with me, and this is what's not okay with me. The one of the key points when it comes to boundaries is that they are not selfish, they are self-respect, because it is okay to tell someone like, hey, I'm not okay with this, or I am okay with this and stuff like that. It is very easy to just take everything in and constantly say yes to everything and everyone, but you are allowed to say, hey, I'm not okay with this, or I am okay with this, no matter what the circumstances. Now, types of boundaries everyone needs, not just for the girlies, is emotional boundaries. Protect your feelings and don't let people guilt trip you. Trust me, around this time of year, it is very easy for you to feel like, well, I have to do this or stuff like that. Like, okay, fine. Like you're accepting, people put like, over pushing your boundaries because you don't want people, to feel, you don't want to make people upset and stuff like that. And sometimes people can guilt trip you, sometimes, family members, whether it's intentional or even unintentional, sometimes people will guilt trip you into doing things that you may not feel emotionally capable with. And time boundaries and stuff like that. Like I said, the holidays, everything is, packed up many times with family members and families, you have these back-to-back plans. And whether it's with family or people from back home, wanting to see you and stuff like that, you are allowed to say no to these events or calls when you feel tired. Trust me, it is better to say no and to miss one event than to go to every single event and burn yourself out. And especially during the holidays, everyone feels the burnout the most. So it is okay to say no. It is okay to skip out on an event and stuff like that, especially to recover. And the third one is personal space boundaries. I need a moment alone. And trust me, that one is, for my personal experience, it is one of the hardest boundaries, especially to practice, but it is so important to practice it. And when it comes to personal space, you know, you are allowed to say, hey, like, I need a moment alone. I need a moment by myself. I just need a moment, to just take a step back and to recharge. And of course, you have social boundaries, avoiding drama, avoiding gossip, and avoiding those triggering conversations that you just don't feel comfortable having with, whether it is the topic or even just the people who you have those conversations with. Now, how to set those boundaries. Number one, be clear. Say what you need respectfully. An example for, to way to say it is, I'm not comfortable talking about that. Or maybe you just need a break. If you need a break, you are allowed to say, I need a break. If, like I said, if someone is bringing up a conversation or like a topic conversation that you don't feel comfortable with, you can simply say, hey, I don't feel comfortable talking about that. And trust me, sometimes there are people who, some people will be respectful with it, they'll be like, okay, that's fine. Like, hey, like understandable. And some people, They may try to guilt trip you, like, oh, like you don't want to face tough conversations or whatever the case may be. Ignore those people. If you do not feel comfortable having that conversation, you don't have to be in it. You are allowed to take a step back and let them know, hey, I don't feel comfortable talking about that. And like I said, number two, repeat yourself. No explanation needed. You don't need to explain yourself for every single thing. You know, if someone pushes past your boundary, a prime example what you can say is, like I said, I don't want to talk about that. And like I said, you don't need to you don't owe yourself, you don't owe an explanation to anyone. You don't. If you don't feel comfortable, speaking to that person or with a conversation, no matter what it is, you don't need to just, like cave in, when people push you. You can just simply say, hey, I don't want to talk about it, or I don't want to talk to you, hey, I'm choosing my peace. Am I dealing with this? And the third one, stay calm and confident. No eye rolling, no attitude, just firm. There is a difference between having an attitude and being firm. You know, Many times people they will misinterpret, firmness for attitude. But as long as you are concrete and calm with it, calm and firm, you are setting those boundaries. And if they want to take that as disrespect, unfortunately, that's on them, but that's not on you because you are staying firm to your boundaries and you are setting them still. And the fourth one is protecting your peace first. Your mental health, it is so much more important than other people's expectations. Everyone has an expectation on everyone else, including themselves. And sometimes you may feel like everyone has this high expectation of you, but at the end of the day, you can't achieve your own expectations if you don't have a good mental health. If you have a good mental if you have a good mental health, your mental health's great, you're okay, you're calm, cool, collected, your batteries are recharged, then you can achieve your expectations. You can do more things. But at the end of the day, if there is an event that you do not feel like going to, if you feel burnt out or you feel like, hey, I need to stay in, you need to, recollect yourself, you are allowed to do that. Protect your peace first. If that means not attending an event, whatever the case may be, then so be it. It is better to miss things. It is better to just, skip out and, walk away from things than go into places or meet or speak with people or whatever the case may be because you feel like you have to. Now, ideas for hard situationships. If, like I said, if someone asks you an invasive question, an answer that you could say is, I'd rather keep that private, or I'm just focusing on myself right now. Especially, trust me, when it comes to this time of year, I personally deal with family members asking me about my relationship status and my work status and stuff like that. And many topics that me personally I prefer to keep private because I haven't seen these people in a long time and they're asking me all these questions that I don't feel comfortable with answering for them. So what I personally say is honestly like if it comes to work, I just keep it private or when it comes to relationships or whatever the case may be, I honestly just simply say I'm just focusing on myself right now. And there's always going to be that one person that will honestly say something negative or criticize you, whatever the case may be. Another thing a way that you can respond to them is, I hear you, but I'm not taking that in today. Because no matter what the case may be, no matter what the discussion is or what, there's always going to be someone, unfortunately, that will try to criticize you or say a negative comment. And you can acknowledge their existence if you want to. You can acknowledge it, but you don't have to take it in. You don't have to take it in. You don't have to respond. You can just be like, I hear you. Like, I see you. I hear you. I acknowledge your presence, but I don't need it. And when you need space, trust me, when it comes to this time of year, if you need space, like I said, you are allowed to take space. Don't diminish your space for someone else or for whatever the case may be. When you need space, you can just simply say, I'm just gonna I'm just stepping out for a minute. I need to recollect myself. Like I said, you can just simply say, I need some time. I'll be back soon. And again, these answers and these type of things, you will see them before, during, and after the holidays. And it is so important that you set these boundaries, not just, like I said, not just the holidays. Like I said, even after the holidays, if you need space, you are allowed to say, I need to take some time. I need to step away, or whatever the case may be. And if someone wants you to do something that you don't want to do, no is a complete sentence. No is a simple answer. No matter who, what, where, or how, if you want to, I just say no, thank you. Simple as that. You can just, or if you want to, you can say, I just don't have the energy for that today. And here is a protecting your peace checklist. Like I said, during this time of year, like I said, it can be very stressful. It can be very, trust me, it can be honestly a very hard header. So when it comes to protecting your peace, here's a little checklist that I kind of made up for me that I personally like to use over the holidays. And that is taking breaks when you feel very overwhelmed. If you feel overwhelmed, like I said, you are allowed to take a break, no matter how long it is or no matter what it is, you are allowed to take breaks. And also limit time with draining people. Trust me, draining people, it is more than just people that you meet out in this world. Unfortunately, draining people can even be people from your own home. And if that person does not bring you happiness, if that person does not make you feel safe or comfortable, you are allowed to limit your time with them. And there is nothing wrong with that. And I want to make that very clear. Like, trust me, draining people, it is more than just your neighbor or your friend or someone that you met at work. Like I said, it can be an aunt or an uncle or whoever it is. You are allowed to limit your time with them because at the end of the day, your peace comes first. And of course, making your own space, make your own safe space. Unfortunately, I know some people during the holidays, every case is different. So make your own space, whether it is, just being in your room and, recollecting yourself or music or journaling, journaling down those emotions. How are you feeling? How does that person make you feel? The situation, whatever the case may be. Journaling, it is so crucial. And trust me, I know that this one's a little hard hitter, but it is very important to practice this. Don't argue with people who want to misunderstand you. There are people who are going to misunderstand you. There are people who are not going to understand or like you or whatever the case may be, and that's them. That is not you. That is just simply on them. And just don't argue with them. Don't let them get to you. You know, trust me, there are people that are going to push your boundaries, push those buttons, or whatever the case may be. But don't argue with them because they just want to get a rise out of you. And you, unfortunately, biting back, you're just feeding into what they wanted. And of course, choose peace over drama every single time. Choose your peace more specifically over drama. You know, like I said, if you have to walk away, walk away. If you have to, just tell that person, hey, I don't feel comfortable talking to so and so, that's okay, you know, because at the end of the day, your peace, it matters so much more than drama every single time. And this holiday season, as stressful as it is, give yourself permission to rest because at the end of the day, one of the best things my mom said best when it with this stuff. She said a car, well, a car needs gas, a car needs oil, you know, an electric car, they need to be charged and stuff like that. How are you expected to drive a car if you don't have oil, if the car isn't charged? That is why it is so important to give yourself the rest because you deserve that. And of course, an activity that I want everyone to do for the holiday boundary plan, I want you to write a boundary that you want to set this holiday season, no matter what it is. Me personally, a boundary that I want to set, it is, of course, choosing is honestly just, not letting people get to me. Like I said, it is very easy, unfortunately, even with family, it is very easy to take their criticism. But again, if it's someone, like I said, the comments and stuff like that, I'm learning to just, not take it in as much as it's gonna be a little hard to, it is okay to do that. And another thing to protect my peace, whatever that looks like for you, that's good. If you protecting your peace, like example for me, one way that I'm protecting my peace, it is, just allowing myself to rest, and honestly, the holidays can be very busy. I like to protect my peace. I will be skipping out on events this year. I will be skipping out on, you know, attending certain things because I'm choosing my peace and I'm going to take the time that I'm not attending these things to rest and to recover and to recharge. And another thing for your holiday boundary plan, one person I may need space from and how I'll handle it respectfully. I already have one person in mind, and how I'm going to handle it respectfully. Me personally, I know who I need to communicate to. I'm going to let that person know, like, hey, with so and so, I need space from this holiday season. I don't see them often when I come home, and I'm going to keep it that way. I'm going to handle it respectfully. I'm going to communicate to my family, like, hey, this is my decision. I'm choosing my peace. And if they don't understand it, then they don't understand it because at the end of the day, my peace will come first for me. And one thing I'm letting go of before the holidays is I'm not going to like, again, these are all just, my examples and stuff like that. And one thing I will be letting go of for the holidays, before the holidays, it is the expectations that people put on me. Because at the end of the day, there is going to be someone out there having such a high expectation of me or an expectation of me that, it doesn't match with who I am anymore. The only expectations that I'm planning on reaching and stuff like that is my own. What I have to do, whether it's when it's during, before, and after the holidays, I'm going to achieve my expectations because I know these are mine. I'm setting these up for myself so I can be the best version that I can be. And again, one thing that I want to end off on is that holidays don't have to be perfect, they just have to be peaceful. Your job is not to hold everything together. Your job is to take care of you. Like I said, this can go so much more than just the holiday season. It is so important for you to have peace in your life because how are you going to live the life that you want, the life that you deserve, if you don't have the peace that you deserve, you know? So like I said, if you need to walk away from someone or something, you are allowed to do that. Set those boundaries, start practicing setting those boundaries now. So that way, like I said, the holiday season is right around the corner. So when it comes, you already know, hey, these are my boundaries. I've already planted the seed for these boundaries and they're going to stay put because I'm not going to let anyone or anything ruin my peace. I am so sorry for how my voice sounds. I realized, like, as I was talking, that my voice just wasn't cutting it. But yes, that is the presentation. I'm going to